right, welcome back, Clean Freaks, to episode 2 of our expert series with Michael Matthews, all about cleaning chemistries. And as we covered in episode 1, there's more to it than meets the eye. So today we're going to talk about kind of the anatomy of a detergent. We'll get into some scientific terms that were new to me as a sterile processing tech, surfactants, emulsifiers, chelating agents, and most of those I'm not even sure I'm saying right. So to make sure we've got the right information, we have our expert, Michael Matthews, clinical education specialist with Healthmark, a Getinge company. How's it going, Michael?
It is going well. I'm excited to get into this, and you're right, we are going to kind of nerd out a little bit.
So this is the if you are science forward and you love knowing the ins and outs of your detergent, we're going to start with one about what surfactants are and how they impact our cleaning process.
Yeah, surfactants are one of the most critical pieces to this, and it comes from a tendency in water to kind of bind together. Water has this thing called surface tension. Well, all liquids have a surface tension, but water tends to have a very high surface tension. And you see this anytime, like for example, you've washed your car and you put a wax coating on that car. When water gets on that wax coating, what does it do? It beads up and it creates like these bubbles almost, but it's not like an air bubble, it's just water, right? Like, how is it that water is able to kind of hold itself together in sort of this dot? And that's because water has surface tension. And the challenge with that is that because water has this surface tension, this tendency of kind of binding together and sticking together, it's not actually that effective at getting into all the sort of nooks and crannies and those little tiny crevices of where bioburden is on top of instruments. And so water actually has a really difficult time sort of getting into the in-between spaces and then forcing that bioburden off of the instrument because it's kind of stuck together. And so what a surfactant does is it actually lowers that surface tension so water can kind of get into all of those areas. And then they're designed with a hydrophilic and a hydrophobic end. And the purpose of that is that those hydrophobic ends are actually able to bind to those bioburden surfaces. And then the hydrophilic end sort of stays in the water. And as it's kind of doing all these things, the end result is it's lifting that bioburden off of the surface of the instruments and then up into the water.
So if we're looking at a detergent or cleaning chemistry with a surfactant, we're going to be able to get into those smaller spaces where maybe our surface tension is too high with just tap water.
Absolutely.
And that's going to allow that bioburden to get lifted off of the surface in those box locks and, ratcheting positions, screw
Sure, and
points. So,
even just the microscopic little gaps, because when you look at a piece of bioburden under a microscope, it's not like this perfect little orb. It's got
right.
like all these tiny little nooks and crevices and things sticking out. And it's like you've got to get into all of those pieces so that you can effectively make contact and then
Hmm.
lift it off.
That makes sense. So we're fine tuning not just our cleaning process, but the cleaning chemistries that are used for the instruments.
Absolutely.
I love it. Now, one of the things we see when it comes to detergents, and I know I've seen it rounding as an infection preventionist, where you see a jug of detergent that's been sitting there for a while, and it almost looks like they're separate layers,
Yeah.
like kind of not quite oil and water, but there's separating layers to that. So when we see that, what does that mean? What does that tell us about the detergent that's being used?
Yeah, it probably means that it's been setting there for a really long time. And
Okay.
detergents are designed. I mean, you brought up oil and water, like the way you might see in sort of like a salad dressing, right? Where
Hmm.
you just set it off to the side. You will see the oil and the vinegar just immediately create these two layers, right? And the reality is that anything that is hydrophobic and anything that is hydrophilic means loves water, hates water. Those two things will always separate. They are designed to separate, like basic chemistry 101. And we have those components inside of our detergents. We need both of them in order to be effective. So, how do we keep the components from separating the way that you're describing? And the reality is we have to add emulsifiers to the chemistry to make sure that it actually stays bonded together. Now, like you said, though, uh, over time, you will still see that separation kind of begin to take place because emulsifiers, like they're not perfect. And so they will fail over time. It's just how much time are you giving them? And so if you do see a detergent that is beginning to separate, it's probably been sitting there for a really, really long time. But emulsifiers also provide another useful aspect to the cleaning process. They actually bind to the lipids that are present in bioburden, fats. And so emulsifiers do a really good job of binding to those fat molecules and sort of like encasing them so that they don't sort of float off and stick to something else.
Got it. Because, like you said, the lipids are going to go to the top of the surface. They're going to try to separate, so those emulsifiers keep that bioburden from getting around and kind of gaining speed as it's going and getting through the cleaning process.
Absolutely, because you don't want to clean something and then just redeposit everything you just cleaned somewhere else. You want it to
Right.
go down the sink, right? You need to get rid of it. And so it's not just a matter of lifting the materials off. You also want to do things that keep them from reattaching to anything else.
That makes sense. Anytime we clean our, and that's another call out to when we see a lot of residue or anything at the bottom of a detergent or a bottom of a decontam sink, especially, maybe we've got something that's not quite clicking there, overdosing the sink, wrong dilution, or we have something that's not allowing those chemistries to get carried away.
For sure. And again, it may be a cheap chemistry. It could just be a really old chemistry that's been sitting on the shelf for a really long time. Could be expired.
Yeah, absolutely. Or it sat in the warehouse and then came back to your department, a week ago.
For sure.
So we touched a little bit on the water component of these cleaning chemistries, and with Amy ST108 being kind of all the buzz right now, and everybody navigating how they apply that in their own facility. What role does water quality play in how these cleaning chemistries are going to function?
Well, water affects everything. And, from the mineral content in the water all the way through its ability to dissolve chemistries and then remove them, like all of these are impacted by this tendency of water to want to absorb stuff. And if the water is already full of other stuff, it's not going to be nearly as effective at removing the stuff that you want it to remove, right? And so, and the reality is the challenge of water quality is that every facility has variations in their water quality. In fact, you can see variations in water quality even at the same location, but two different departments. And so when we say water quality, like really, it's the Wild West in terms of what does your specific facility have going on. And if you don't know what your facility has going on, how can you fit a chemistry to that water? And that's going to create a lot of other problems down the line. And I know you mentioned chelating agents or chelating agents, depending on how you want to pronounce it. That's one of their purposes. We talked about emulsifiers, we've talked about surfactants, we're going to talk about enzymes. All of these will have a tendency to attack the mineral content of water rather than attacking what you actually want them to attack, which is the bioburden. And so these chelating agents, they actually bind to those minerals that are present in your water to kind of keep them from affecting anything else. It's kind of like putting them in a box and pushing them away so that all your other materials can actually focus on what you need them to focus on, which is the bioburden that's sitting on top of your instruments.
So having a chelating agent in your cleaning chemistry, if you're not getting the outcome that you may want, or if your instruments are looking, or even let's say your water quality is kind of low, sounds like a chelating agent may help your those active ingredients, the enzymes, the surfactants, work more effectively.
Absolutely, it can. Yeah, absolutely, it can. And the chelating agents, it's almost like it's a balancing tool, right? To where you really need to know just what is your water quality, and then fit that to the amount of chelating agents that you have in your detergent.
It is a balancing act and making sure that we have the right trade offs where we need them to get patient safe and instruments clean and ready for the next patient. So that was episode 2 of our expert series with Michael Matthews on cleaning chemistries. Next episode, we're going to be talking about something we touched on in this episode, enzymes and how they function in our cleaning chemistries. We'll be back with Michael Matthews. Thank you.